Welcome to the next episode on surviving narcissistic abuse. Well, the next one we're talking about is child's Thanksgiving and complaints. For those who are just watching from this video, you might as well go to my wall or profile to check on the previous episodes on this particular story. Is quite lengthy, so and to also get a very understanding of what has been happening before now, I think it's best to go and watch those ones. So let's go on this story. And let me say this, the reason why I'm doing a video is not because I could not have posted screenshot it, but I want to use it as a means to also help as many as possible. Okay, so let's go on. 2 months after childbirth, we went to do Thanksgiving in my wife's church in Lagos, as a pastor used to do extra cool MTN calls with us at night when we were seeking to get pregnant. After the service, when we got to my in-laws' house, my father-in-law called a meeting where he expressed his grievances, saying we didn't appreciate his wife's efforts as we didn't use the concoction she brought, and I gave her little money on our way to Lagos. What's going on here? Ha! I hope it's not what I'm fearing. You know what I mean? Like a toxic family birthing a toxic spouse, only to now suck in an innocent person. Honestly, it's beginning to give me that vibe with this father not being understanding. Let's continue. I explained that it was all my wife's fault. I remembered 1 month earlier, my mother-in-law called my wife on the occasion of 1 month anniversary of her daughter as we were taking family pictures in the studio. I told Bumi that I was surprised that her mom didn't greet me, but I told her not to complain about it to her. But instead, my wife called her mom back and asked her to call me too. My mother-in-law then called and greeted me in a cold voice. I later realized she was holding grudges against me because of the concussion and money issues. Little did I know that I was going to experience more grudges from her in years to come. My mother had earlier called my mother-in-law severally at that time. She neither picked nor returned the calls. My mom was telling me then that maybe it was due to the concussion issue, which she was not even involved in. But I told her it can't be, since cousin Jumoke and I begged my mother-in-law. My mother respected my mother-in-law so much, despite being a senior, but by about 14 years. Oh, wow. Your mom is humble, but it's good. Anyways. Now, the first year of their child. Since my wife was working in a corporate setting, she used to return from office late in the evening, around 6 p.m. So the duty of caring for her baby rested much on me. I used to take her to the crèche since she was 2 months of age and take her home daily. During midweek church activities, I used to feed her in the car before joining church program, where her mom joins us later. I also used to assist Bumi to operate the breast pump to collect milk at 5 a.m. This I used to drop for the baby at the crèche. I used to bag the baby, bathe her, change her diapers. Okay, all these ones, to be honest, like I said in my previous video, is your responsibility, is your child. Okay? The child is yours, so you're not helping anybody to take care of your own child. It's your child, you take responsibility. However, it should be a joint effort from both mother and child. Okay, at times a need for attention used to prevent me from doing my side job. When she's not sleeping, I used to put her toys with her. Okay, I'm going to jump this part because I feel every parent, it's normal. Your child, see, the minute you have a child, you no longer own your time. See, until that child becomes a little bit independent, even when they're a little bit independent, you are still being, in quote, controlled by them because they still need you. And for an infant, up until 5 years, trust me, you need to give them the attention if you want a healthy child, or actually 7 years. Okay, so I'm going to jump the remaining parts in that one and continue. When Tola started trying to stand up to walk, that's their baby, I advised Bumi to be putting her little mattresses behind whenever she's playing alone in the sitting room, and she occasionally falls back, hitting her head on the floor. Okay, that's necessary. But she never listened. He actually tried obeyed. I think obeyed is a wrong word. She should not, you're not a master, but she should listen to your advice. And each time I reminded her, she rages at me, and whenever I place the mattress behind our daughter, her mom removes it and insults me, saying I'm too fearful. Okay, like I've said in previous video, I can sense some tone of control from you as well. I think you're also controlling. You may not see it, but going by what you've written so far, your tone, your choice of words, I can sense some bit of control from your hand. I think you also feel it is okay to control your wife, but sadly you can't control anybody. However, you can make people to reason with you, to see things in your way, and it still doesn't mean they must see it. Yes, in the aspect of marriage, well, these things happen, but I wanted to knock off that belief that you should be controlling your wife. It's a very unhealthy mindset. And even if that wife was not a toxic and abusive person, you will one day push her to be toxic and abusive. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, let's go on. I began noticing Bumi's extreme impatience with Tola, their child. One day, while the little girl, about 5 months old, was being fed by her mom while seated on her laps, the baby was dozing off. Her mom beat her and shouted, "Swallow it now." Ah. Why don't you just eat this food? Okay. I would like to ask as well, when she was doing this, what did you do to salvage the situation? Did you try to, like take the child to feed the child yourself? Because at the end of the day, that child is your child. And if you don't man up to, lead, be what you want to see, you may not see it. And if especially you're dealing with this kind of person, it's going to be difficult. Yes, what she did is wrong. Why are you beating a child for sleeping? Ah. But I'm also going to point out the fact that maybe if you had just see, you already know the person you're dealing with. Sometimes just take the baby and say, okay, let me help you out. There's a manner of approach you would help people. There's a way you would do things, and even if they want to talk back at you or be rude, they won't have they won't have a point to hold on to. Now, this is not to make you feel like blame yourself more, but I also wanted to see that sometimes, especially when we have put on that victim garment, we always think we are helpless in situations where we are not. Okay. Anyways, it's already happened, so there's nothing we can do about the past, but we can do something about the future. And I believe that's part of the reasons why you sent this video. And I'm happy that when you sent this this message, I'm happy when you sent this very long file, you mentioned that you feel so at ease and much better. Yes, that's part of the reason why I permitted this sharing of your story. So I'm also using this opportunity to help you see where you could have done things differently and better. So don't think I'm trying to judge you because you're a man. No, I also wanted to see the part you're playing, because many times victims, and I was once one, I had to realize and come to the place where I knew that somehow I also enabled this person to abuse me. And some of the ways I did that was that I was quiet when I should speak. I was being submissive when I was meant to report him to the authorities. I was being gentle when I should stand firm and be stubborn. It would be termed stubborn, but I would have actually been assertive, but it would have been misunderstood to being stubborn. When people do not get what they want to get from you, they begin to label you wrongly. So I want you to understand that one way or the other, as much as I want to, hold the perpetrator responsible, I also want to reflect and see the part you may have played in making these things deteriorate to this point. Okay, so I'll stop on this video here. So watch us for the next episode. This is quite a lengthy one, but bear with me. Trust me, you'll enjoy it and you're also going to learn. All right. Okay, guys. Welcome to the next episode, which I will be summarizing for you and also sharing my concerns based on this particular aspect of the story. Like I've said in the previous video, it's a very lengthy one, and if you are just joining from this episode, please go to my wall to catch up on the previous episode of the story and share your opinion and what you think. So for this aspect, I will still likely read some other part of the story, but for this aspect, I'm just going to summarize what this particular aspect entails. So in a nutshell, the mother started treating the child in an abusive way, expecting the child to be a 1-year-old child to be acting like a 10 to 15 years old child. If the child splashes water on the floor, the child is beaten. If the child is eating and sleeps off while eating, the child is beaten to wake up and forcefully finish feeding. The father is afraid of talking because he has complained constantly about this, and it always results in fights, shouting, and misunderstanding or exchange of words maybe. And then they had another child, their second child, which is a boy. The same thing I've started with the boy. The boy is now, is not being treated badly. When the child is being beaten for, water must not touch mommy, because if water touch mommy, Uncle Tolu, the little man, will have to collect. He will collect beating and verbal abuse. Now, my worry is the fact that somehow I feel that the next generation of dysfunction children are being raised, because children need attention, children need love, children need nurturing, children need care, children need every good thing that they ever should deserve, because they are children. They are children. Does it stop you from correcting them? No. Now, a child goes to the bathroom or kitchen, opens the tap and started spilling water, making a mess. Yes, caution the child, correct the child, but verbally abusing the child, physically assaulting the child is a no. Sometimes when my younger child was 3 years old, I don't know, he seems to have this sweet connection with water. So he would go to the bathroom, open the sink in the bathroom, and leave it flowing. And then one day, obviously, I would catch him, stop him, I would caution him, he wouldn't listen. But one day, the extreme happened where this time around, I don't know, I think he closed the passage of the water. So the water started spilling on the floor. He forgot the tap, he left it. Me, I was downstairs. Only for me to be seeing water dripping from the ceiling. And I was like, where is this from? And I ran upstairs, only to find this rug everywhere, bathrooms filled with water. Well, I closed the tap. Thank God for some safe measures that was in place. Immediately the water touched the wire, the light in the house had to go off. And then as soon as the water was okay, some lights came back on, but the light that was directly affected didn't come on until it was fixed. Now that was a dangerous thing that could have actually cost us a life. But I understood the child was a child. I did not beat my child. I corrected my child in a language and tone that he will understand, and with a no smiling face, so that he can understand the gravity of what he has done. So I'm not saying do not correct your children, but abusing them, beating, verbally abusing them, calling them names, because that's what I'm literally saying here. I had to summarize that. I don't know. If I was to be the father of those children, I would take my children and run away. But somehow it feels like this man, maybe the abuse has affected him, that is just weak. And he does not seem to see the need to fight for his children at least. And I'm hoping from this video he would get a cue to the fact that he's the only one that can help those children. I don't even know who they are now. Anyways, let me get to the other part. So the next part says that she had a project she was working on, and due to the lack of electricity in Nigeria, the husband was helping to do it. Then at some point, obviously they are different fields. He's in biology, she's in finance, so that it's definitely going to be a very difficult task for him. But at some point, she actually helped him. I mean, he actually helped her for to a large extent. And then at some point, obviously, because she knows what she's doing, she needed to do it more. So, and then there was no constant light in their area, and then she chose. That his mommy wife decided to go to a single man's apartment to go and continue editing as per light. Husband was not in support, and to be honest, I don't think he supports that. Like, anything can happen. Even if you are saying you don't want, the devil don't have house. What if the devil enter that one decides to rape you? What are you going to blame? You carry your 2-leg entire single man house, and you're a woman without any accompany. Nobody accompanying you there. You are just by yourself. Anything can happen. So I don't even blame the man for saying no. I don't even think it makes sense. Why? Why can't you stay in your house? And if you must go, why don't you look for someone to go with you, or beg your husband to go with you? Last he will sit down there. And she was pregnant that period. Now, due to this, Auntie gave uncle silent treatment for the longest time. I honestly feel the signs have always been there, but he was not paying attention, or he thought he could manage it. And that's a mistake a lot of victims make. You can never manage a bad behavior. You can't. See, except the person sees a need to work on themselves and they start working on themselves, you cannot manage it. You can't. The next issue is that in their house, the landlord obviously gave a rule that no generator should be left on from 9:30 upward p.m. And at the time, light was, well, is it still even consistent in our beloved country? Light was not consistent. Fuel scarcity was an issue, but he always managed to get fuel, and he always put on the generator almost every night because he needed to do his craft, also charge his phone, and then his wife also have an opportunity to do her own office work that she brings home, also watching movie whenever she wants to. And so whenever it's 9:30, he would want to switch it off, but mommy in the Lord will say no, and then it would turn to a fight. Then he now said on a particular night, sometimes neighbors do always come and charge with them, that he even forgot and decided to go and switch off the gen at 10:30 p.m. That's how Auntie came at him with fights. He said, according to him, he said he had to leave home for 2 days because of the assault. And then for the first time, he opened up to his parents, who pleaded with him and also understood with him. But then he also decided to call his father-in-law, who came from Lagos, to them and pleaded with him to be patient, and also thanked him for being patient with his daughter. Upon the father-in-law correcting the his daughter-in-law went into the room to I had to ask it out. He went to lock his cloth, and also telling him, how dare him, that's more like saying he's a weakling and all that, and still insisting he must never switch off the gen. Ogasa, is it until this woman beats you or use a knife at you? Is it until she comes for you before you realize that you should run? Or is it because of the society? Of what people will say, you are a man now, you're the head of the... All that in a wash. Last, if anything happens to your enemy today, your enemy go. The same word people will fall to you. They will say, why didn't he send her out or leave the house for her? At least leave the house. Except it is your house. Even if it's your house right now, it is somebody that is alive that we own a house on. Because what we are seeing here, I've not even finished reading. What I'm seeing here will escalate though, because you are still in the environment and you are still being patient. You see that thing called patience? Sometimes it's not patience that you are exhibiting, no. It's foolishness. Because patience will not tell you to stay when your life is under threat. But you know, the way we always misunderstand Bible passages and instructions, we always twist it. See, in as much as, you know, in my previous video I've said that you played some parts, I will not tell you that you should play. You see, don't play a part in your own. I don't want to say it. Please. I don't know. For this one though. Well, it's up to you. Hey people, I was going to summarize this episode, but with the details here, I don't think it will be good to summarize it. So bear with me. I know you're using your data and time. Take a break if you must. But just because now it's not even just about abusing the man, it's the fact that the children now are being abused. Let me read it for you. From the tone of my voice, you can tell that I don't know how to react. I feel weak and I don't know. I'm pained. I'm kind of angry because let me read it. When Chola was 4 years old and Cholo was less than 2 years old, I had to report Bumi to Reverend James, who was already retired, again due to the dangerous objects she was using to beat the children and her excessive aggression towards me. He didn't even focus in this episode, this particular place. He didn't even talk much about himself. It was more of the children. So clearly you cannot even say this man is lying. And at this point, I don't even know what to say. Now listen, this is where the major problem is for me. On this occasion, I took cloth hangers. You know hanger now? I'm just hoping it's at least plastic, not iron. Sticks, belts, bag handles, wire, which I had seized over time to Reverend James. He and his wife were so surprised and angry at the dangerous objects Bumi was using to beat the children. Please, if you're the one, will you not be surprised? Will you not be so shocked to the point of almost even calling the police and making sure they even give her a dose of her own distance? Like, which is this not wickedness? For someone who had a little bit of delay to have child, are you the one that should be abusing children like this? Using all sort of things on them? It's because it's in Nigeria. If this man was to be in UK, I would have called the police. Because this is child abuse. This is wickedness. If you don't want the children, then leave them. You're saying you're disciplining them with sticks, with wire, seriously. Let me continue. One evening after I had broken a large concrete cane, which she unnecessarily used to beat the children, Bumi came and told me in utter anger that she would buy another one, which she definitely did because she must discipline her children according to her. Yeah, disciplining your... To be honest, I feel that this was how she was raised. Yeah. Again, this guy had to go again and report again to the reverend, bringing new sets of tools, or do I say weapon of destruction. Because who, in their own mind, in their mind that is okay, will be beating a 2 years old and 4 years old children with cane, wire, anger, bag handle? Are you okay? Are you normal? Because no, you can't be normal and be doing this. And then you're now angry for being corrected. To the point where you are even now being defiant and defensive towards the people trying to correct you, shouting at them and being disrespectful in their presence. It got to the point, even the reverend became helpless. They had to be telling us to go and be praying that God will change her, that it is likely not natural. Of course it's not natural. But I don't think it's spiritual to start with. It's a psychological issue. And I don't think staying in this relationship is the solution. Honestly, it's not. See, this story is beginning to become more intense and I'm getting more scared for this man. And I'm hoping that watching this video is going to do something. I'm really hoping. Okay, so there's this man that his wife used to work together with in church. She used to advise the man and vice versa concerning church, and they work together. But the marital issue, he had to open up to the man, hoping that that influence of listening and sharing stuff in church was going to work. But sadly, it wasn't working. It turned on a deaf ear. So on this particular phase, they had a sleepless night because one of their children rather wasn't feeling well, having a cough, and she was busy shouting at the child to shut up and sleep. But he had to take care of his child, and Due to that, he couldn't sleep well, and when he was trying to catch a sleep, he had a nasty dream. I think I should read the dream to you. At around 5 a.m. that morning, I woke up suddenly from an experience, seemingly real life, feels like a real life, in which one woman was pressing me down on the bed as I laid face up, and I had a feeling of a dark, gloomy sky over me, and heard a name which has to do with fear pronounced loudly. I shouted Jesus as much as my strength allowed me, and the woman suddenly left me and exited the room through the wall with a couple of short dwarf-like creatures. I even heard their footsteps as they already left. I woke Bumi up, narrated the experience, and held my hands as I led an aggressive prayer. Hey God, maybe not marry our enemy. In the morning, after searching the internet, I understood the experience better and explained the meaning of the name in the revelation to Bumi. I decided to fast and pray for 3 days, and I had to travel that day as I was studying a part-time course at the time. Bearing in mind, he had a very bad night's sleep. He didn't sleep well. When I came back in the afternoon, I was having headache from the sleepless night and the stress of traveling, which is expected. So I lied down to rest. Remember, this is unusual of me during the day. He rarely sleeps in the afternoon. So for him to sleep in the afternoon, they should show you a sign as a wife that something is off with your husband. You should care for him. But unfortunately, it's not so for him. Bumi came in and ordered me to go and put on the generator for her to blend pepper. I calmly asked her to put it on by herself or call a neighbor's son or go grind the pepper outside with money. I beg. These are 3 options she could have used. But she angrily insisted that I get up and put on the generator, not even caring about my health, which is her usual attitude. She said that was how I always lie down. What a great lie. I angrily got up, went downstairs, put on the generator. This affected my prayer and fasting as I couldn't concentrate much. I knew a spirit was using Bumi to try and hinder my prayer intent. You know when they say the enemy within is the one that opens the door for the enemy without, that seemed to be the case in this marriage. At night, when I was lying down on the mattress on the floor, Bumi entered the room looking very furious. She put her hands in her gown's pocket as she stood by, gazing at me intently. She then said boastfully, "This is, I am your boss, you are my boy." Me, I have Igbo mentality, we are mates. I felt convincingly for the first time that she was under an influence, a spirit, according to him. She later came and shook me vigorously as she raged at me. I didn't retaliate but kept wondering if her statement was true for the Igbos. I beg Igbo people, that's what they think. Because the Igbo way me I know. Let me say proper English. Igbos. Is this truly how people think? But because the Igbos that I know, this is not their mentality. At least, I'm surrounded by reasonable people that have sense. Is this what they think? Maybe there are some that think this way because... Guys, I don't know. Do you really think this is... Well, I understand there may be some spiritual influence, but I think that, to me, I think there was a door that was open before the other forces decide to come and leverage on what is on ground. This woman is wicked. This wife is wicked. Wicked. I don't even know if wicked justifies it. But to be honest, as I'm speaking, my heart rate has gone up. My chest is beating fast because I'm a very imaginative person. Anything I'm reading, I try to imagine it to understand it. So imagining it now is making my heart beat real fast. I'm not imagining if it was happening for real, which happened. I don't know how this man is okay. I don't know. But you guys, what do you think this man should be doing right now as we are still talking? Because we have not even finished. But at this point, what do you think this man is supposed to be doing? Maybe when people are dropping the comments of what he should do, maybe we'll understand that he should do it. I don't want to be the one telling him what to do. Basically, in this aspect, he mentioned the fact that their sex lives are suffering. Of course, it will start suffering. Let's even put narcissistic issue aside. Any marriage that you begin to keep away from each other, always fighting, nagging at each other, your desire for each other will start dropping. Your likeness for each other will start going. So the sex life literally became dull, and also it got to a stage where the lady made some statements about, "Sure, you not come now." I don't want to use because of I don't want. I'm trying to be careful also because of community guideline. So if she said something like, "Sure, you not come and do it," now it's not just to insert it and remove it. Please, if you are the man in this situation, even if your team is standing, will it not die? Like it will die by fire. It will just die. Like, I don't know. Anyway, and then he mentioned how during one of the days when they're having fun, where she suddenly, out of nowhere, asked how much he loves her. And then instances where, she would just be lying down there like a log of wood, not engaging. That to me, it feels more like you are indirectly... I don't know, should I say graping her? Let's put graping her. You know what I mean, right? Graping her. Because anything that is not engaging, actually, at least by the law of the country that I live in, once the other party is not fully activated, it's more like you're graping them. Do you understand? So anyways, he also mentioned the fact that just to make the relationship work, he advised her to start reading some of the books they read while cutting, and Auntie said she's not the reading type. Meanwhile, she was reading other kinds of book. Okay, he tried to find another solution by saying, okay, watch our wedding videos, our spinster nights, all those kind of videos, so that you can hear the things you said that you love about me. At the end of the day, Auntie said that the reason he loves him is because of his vision and something. But it feels like she does not really love him. Now, I don't even know what to think, but let me continue with the other aspect of this. Okay, so to continue, he mentioned the fact that he had to look for spiritual help, go to church for deliverance. He went for himself. He said he felt happy, he felt better when he returned, and then advised her as well to go for it. And it took her roughly 3 months before she finally went. And upon coming back, he said she looked a bit happier. At least her countenance looked a bit happier, unlike before that she's always acting like she's fighting the world. But she was meant to go back for subsequent prayer sessions, but she didn't go back, and she vehemently kicked against it, telling him she's never going to go back. Then they tried to also jap her, but unfortunately the means he wanted to use was not going. The wife also started her own plan. Meanwhile, in between, it was more like between a year into another year, and it was like, let's make a list of the prayer points that we want for our marriage. He listed a thing, as a family rather, and he listed so many things, including what he wants to start seeing in his marriage, and then gave it to his wife so she can also do her own. And when the wife did her own, she didn't list anything related to the marriage except for traveling out, building their own house, financial breakthrough, and those kind of things, except a successful marriage. Now things started getting worse. That wife, which according to this story, Bumi, not her real name, decided to start telling lies about him to his family, to a point where they began to believe her over him, and to the point where one of his uncle had to slap him in the presence of his wife, all just because he was trying to defend himself. This continued until one day when she mistakenly showed her real attitude by insulting a member of the family who I think is over 60 years or thereabouts, and insulted the woman, and everybody was like, okay, this is really who you are. And from there, hopefully things started getting better. So issues continued to the point where at some point he opened up to his parents, who somehow made the lady's parents to think that they're not aware. And then the lady's father called him to thank him for not telling his parents about the issue. I smell a foul play there. Honestly, I feel that this father knows that he has a bad child. And if you look at it, many times parents of toxic children or narcissistic children usually try to cover up their children's bad behavior. They know the kind of child they have, and they intentionally protect that child from being seen or noticed by the victim. Honestly, that's what I see here. They tried every means. He reached out to even their counselor before they got married. Nothing is working. Now, there's a part that I would like to read instead of summarizing. That's where I'm going to now. So yeah, this is it. However, due to a pressing issue, I had to seek the intervention of the Daniels, not the real name, in mid-February 2023, like last year. last year. As I mentioned earlier, my wife's interest in sex dwindled over the years more, as she had repeatedly confessed that she doesn't love me, and she married me not because of love but because of purpose and vision, as I'm very creative. Anyway, having been deprived of intimacy for some time, I made a move for it in the morning of January 1, 2023, on a Sunday around 6:30 a.m. For him to remember this detail, it must have pained him. Honestly, it must have really pained him, because it is something that really hurts us that we remember in full details like this. Anyway, let's continue. Bumi refused my advances, saying she was still sleeping. She used to wake up early at about 15:15 to follow our online pastors to pray, as she had long ceased to be praying with me despite all admonition as regards couples prayer. I left the room and came back after a while when I saw she was awake but still lying down. When I touched her, she said my hand was too cold. I then left the room to prepare for church, since she had another engagement at another church that morning. Another church engagement. She later went to the kitchen to cook. As I was leaving for church, I made her to know that I was not happy with the way she rejected my sexual advances that morning, but she only looked at me furiously, and I left. Worship that day lifted my spirit. Okay, thank God. We later went to visit my parents, as it was New Year Day. Our kids were on Christmas New Year Day. Okay, I think this is a playback Christmas holiday. Okay, I guess now. Okay, so they went to their kids were on Christmas holiday in Lagos with his wife's family. My wife's parents were much younger than my parents, who would need assistance if the kids had to stay longer with them. The kids only spent few days with my parents during holiday. Okay. After we had returned home at about 10 p.m., I made a move again for intimacy, but Bumi slept face down, and again didn't respond to me, but instead told me angry that she would leave the bed in 20 minutes' time as she was preparing for her IELTS examination to process a Canadian permanent residency. I tried correcting her, but she kept nagging at me. This put me off as I left her room to sleep in another room. To be honest, even these Japa plans with her, it feels to me like you're going from fry pan to fire because... Okay. In the previous days, I had done 3 night videos with Bumi teaching her English for her IELTS despite my catarrh and headache, but she still rejected my sexual advances, citing the same examination as excuse. She later left her room and continued abusing me as she began studying alone that night. She abused me for long, and all my efforts to calm her down failed as I went to sleep. The following morning, January 2023, my attempt to show my grievance and correct Bumi still failed as she insulted me for about 2 hours. In previous days, I had done 3 videos with Bumi teaching her English, etc. and all that, and then after teaching, she rejected his advances. She abused him for long hours, for about 2 hours. And he said he kept quiet but recorded audio of some of the words on his phone. Thank you, you did do for that one, because stuff like this will be difficult for you to prove it if you don't have a proof. Okay. I later strolled out of the house in anger that day in the afternoon. I had visited my parents and called my father-in-law so that the two families could plan how to discuss the way forward, as I wanted peace in 2023. There were some bad things to the extent of picking a knife. That Bumi had done recently. Hey! I said it. You know I said it. I have not even read this part. I knew that there would be time when she's going to carry a knife. Okay, let's go on. Well, he said there were times that she took a knife and he called the dad in order to call her to order, and but he got no response from him after his wife had visited them during 2020. Before, she was going to cook super story for them, or maybe not, but because they will always support their child, what do you expect? When I called my father-in-law that day, he only talked about 2 of the issues as he defended his daughter having been earlier brainwashed by her. I don't think he was brainwashed. I think he's fully aware of what he's doing, to be honest. He promised to call me back soon as he was busy in his shop, but he didn't after I had waited for about 2 hours. I then left for my house. When I got home that night, my father-in-law called my wife and asked her to pass the phone to me. She suddenly started saying, "Don't let me know you have called my dad, and let this be the last time you would ever call him on issues." I feel this is just going to get worse. She angrily collected her phone back, entered her room, and told her dad calmly that nothing had happened the previous day. I entered the room and shouted into the phone to let her dad know that she was insulting me again, but she angrily went out of the house and out of the compound into the dark night at about 10 p.m. to call her dad privately, spending about 35 minutes. The following day, 3rd of January 2023, my father-in-law called to inform me that he would come to Ibadan for a meeting with me and my parents in order to sort things out, as he had known the root cause of our problem and he would come to address it. I really hope that there's really a root cause that he has seen. I really hope. When I asked him about it, he said his daughter had been pushed to the wall, hence the reason for the reaction. I said it. Have you ever seen the family of a narcissistic in-law? As in, how do I put this now? The parents of a narcissistic partner supporting you against their children. It's rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not common. Out of 100, maybe you will see 1 or 2. It's not common. Days later, he sent me a WhatsApp post on the do's and don'ts of marriage. I asked if he had sent same to his daughter, to which he said yes. The following day, I overheard my wife telling her dad on the phone that she would go and rent a house and separate from me for 3 months in the first place. She said the children would remain with her parents in Lagos, and dad agreed, saying there was therefore no need to return the case to Ibadan. Because they were still on holiday, remember. Bumi said a lot of negative things about me. I recorded some of their conversation on my phone as Bumi had put her phone on speaker. I even like that you're doing this. Let me not lie, because if you don't record it, you won't have any evidence. You will just explain tire. My father-in-law eventually came to Ibadan on Tuesday to meet my parents after about 1 week of initial call to him. I went to pick him up at the bus stop, but he didn't bring the children along. I had heard Bumi telling our younger brother the previous Saturday that he should bring the children along with him the following day while returning back to school in Ibadan. When I called my brother-in-law on that said Sunday morning to ask of the kids, he said his dad would bring them on Tuesday, which he didn't do eventually. There is fire on the mountain. They're going to use these children to punish this man. Oh gosh, I don't even know what to feel. Well, I'm not done reading, Sha. Let me hope. Let me not assume. But it feels like they're going to use the children to punish him. That Tuesday, when I asked my father-in-law about the children, he gave the flimsy excuse that he left home at 5 a.m. and anyone could come and pick the children, whereas schools had resumed for the new year. I also asked my mother-in-law why my mother-in-law didn't follow him for the crucial meeting, but he said that she was staying with the children. I then asked if he had asked my wife to attend the meeting, but he said she won't come despite me having told him that I wanted her and her mom to be in the meeting. See games. See games. See, if you hear narcissistic family and you don't run for your life, I don't even know what to feel. The meeting took place in my parents' house with my dad, my mom, my father-in-law, and me in attendance. My father-in-law opened discussions by saying all his daughter had told him. He said I am the cause of all the marital crisis. I reiterated my usual points about Bumi's behavior and talked about the most recent issue. I mentioned that Bumi threatens me with divorce when she is nagging and she is too domineering, among other complaints. At that, though partially considered some of my points, defended her daughter. Before, what were you expecting? To support you. My parents mentioned in passing Bumi's very few good sides, but they emphasized the negative areas which were actually the cause of crisis in our marriage. Her dad finally promised that he would invite her to Lagos and 2 experienced pastors would talk to her. I had earlier reported to my parents my wife's plan with her dad to return the children in Lagos. My parents emphasized that they should be returned to Ibadan as soon as possible. I hope they listen though. When I got home that day, Bumi kept begrudging me. She kept serving me food. She stopped serving me food later and I began to serve myself. She stopped telling me her destinations when she leaves the house. She used to sing inciting proverbial songs as I passed by in the house. I became skeptical about eating her food before they will poison you. And I later stopped eating her food. She also stopped cooking for me after I neglected her food a few times out of fear for food poisoning. My brother, your fear is very, very valid. Bumi wrote her IELTS around this time. The children were eventually brought home by her brother. Bumi later told my daughter that she would be going to Lagos on Saturday to return the following day. I remember she traveled at that weekend, but since she returned back, I noticed no change in her behavior toward me. I had to leave home to stay with a relative for some days. I called my father-in-law 10 days after the meeting to ask if Bumi had come to Lagos to be counseled by the 2 big pastors he promised. Why is this sounding so ridiculous to me? Big pastors indeed. He said he thought there had been changes at home because she had come and the pastor had talked to her at length to turn a new leaf. I wondered why I couldn't, why my father-in-law could not call me to update me and appeal to my continued patience as he used to. I knew this man's attitude towards me had changed drastically. He, however, still promised that he would come to Ibadan again to talk to me as my family and I hated their daughter. He accused me again that with some big lies that the daughter had told them. The fact that the family is involved in this. To a large extent, I believe the family is aware of their daughter. And sadly, you are the victim that they chose. You know, the thing with seeing the will of God. You see this issue of seeing the will of God in marriage. I think it has done many harm to a lot of destinies and lives. I'm not saying you shouldn't seek the will of God. Please, guys, ladies, seek the will of God. Like the story I'm currently sharing, the foundation of this whole thing is that will of God. He prayed, he saw a revelation. God showed him, this is your wife. However, during the courtship, the lady started showing him a true color. Something that should have made him halt the whole thing. But then he continued. And I'm sure one of the major reasons he continued was because, oh, God told me she's my wife. That God told you that somebody is your wife today does not mean he cannot change his mind about that person. No, it's not because God is confused. It's because the will of another person is involved. And if you love your own life, you will go back to God and say, God, this is the discussion I have with you. This is the kind of man or woman I desire. But these are the traits I'm seeing. Am I supposed to still marry this? You'll be surprised how God will tell you what to do. Either to tell you, wait a little bit, let's see. And after a while, he will tell you to go. Or even say, no, stop it, and I'll bring another person for you. If you're saying, hey, how is that possible? Are you saying God is this, God is that? Didn't you see lots of examples in the Bible that God will choose a person and the same God will now say is no more interested in that person, is going for someone else? That's because when it comes to relationship, there's the will of the man that is involved. And if the will of man is hindering the will of God, God will answer until that will begin to align itself with the will of God. King Saul in the Bible is a very good example that I love to use when I'm talking about issues like this. King Saul was chosen by God to be the king over Israel. And when Saul began to deviate from the real plan and purpose of God for his life and Israel, before Saul died, God replaced him. He already went to anoint David to be the next king over Israel. Yes, it did not happen immediately, but it was glaring and clear that God was with David and God has left Saul. That's why David will go to the same battle, he would win. If Saul goes to the same battle, he will not win. It is a clear sign that when it comes to the will of man, in as much as God's will should be the superior of everything, God, because he has given man the power of choice, they have to choose him. You have to choose the will of God. You have to choose the way of God. You have to choose his plan. You have to choose his method. And if you choose not to choose it, then it will hands off. So if you have had a will of God, that God told you this is your man, and that man is no longer aligning or never even aligned to the word of God, the fruit of the Spirit, then it is time for you to go back and tell God to show you another thing. Because what he has shown you, you cannot go ahead. And believe me, God will give you the best for him. But the problem is that once many of you see that thing called will of God, it's like your brain stops working. Your like you literally stop reasoning. Your logic goes on a break, and then you just go. And God said, and then you enter into trouble. Because the foundation of this issue right now is on. I had a revelation. God told me. I'm not saying God never said. And I'm not saying God is confused. There's the possibility that, okay, look at Saul. God knew that, nothing catches God unawares. God knew that Saul at some point will likely misbehave and start going against his plans and purpose for his life, his life. But God still hoped that Saul would choose him over his own selfish gain. And you see, God is patient and God is a risk taker. He will keep taking risk over people's life. He's willing, he has the time. But you do not have that time. That is why you cannot be taking your life for granted and taking your life, like allowing someone to be using your life to do kites. If someone is not aligning, if their lifestyle, their behavior, their character is not aligning with the fruit of the Spirit, cut them off. Let the pipe supplying the will, let it break. Let's go and do a new reconnection. Because most of the times, Christian men and women that end up with a narcissistic Christian is because they saw a revelation and they refuse to unsee the revelation. I hope this helps you. Share this video because you don't even know who you are going to help with this.